Starting with a question I am sure few people would like to admit to have asked themselves regarding me, that is, Flying Scot. What exactly am I? A Scotsman living in the Netherlands, or a regular Dutch guy that loves Scotland? I am, I believe, what you call third gen. Have you considered doing short summaries or thoughts on videos about more lesser known and less talked about railway shows, movies, media, and the like? The type of obscure railway media I like to seek out is kind of hard to turn into a video. You see, the best ways, by far, I can find to discover new materials on your favourite railways are the second-hand books one can find at, for instance, heritage railways. Or wait for someone to upload a rip of a documentary on YouTube, which I then tend to duly...
Do what you want, 'cause a pirate...
Which do I prefer, Hunslet or Austerity? I think this person means to ask whether I like the Hunslet 16-inch locomotive or the Austerity tank better. Whilst the 16-incher looks very much like a child's depiction of a steam loco, and that is part of the reason why I like them, the cute factor, I would say the Austerity tank, regardless of level of cleanliness, looks like a more impressive machine. If you couldn't model the era and location you are right now, what would you model? If I had the skill, I would fully go into 009 and model Middle-earth, as the engineering of the dwarves combined with the aesthetics of such a setting would create absolutely cracking model layouts. I'm currently only aware of one in existence. I believe it's called Hobbit and End? Favourite railway related show / movie if you have one. I really feel like Mark Williams' On the Rails is what we need in a society where Chris Eden Green is producing the closest thing we have for train Top Gear. The show had a grabbing personality, hosting episodes both about the superficial fundamentals of railways, whilst also having access to data and footage and locations that an enthusiast would only dream to have access to. How did you go about settling on a design for your witch character? Settling is a term that I feel describes the total opposite way I designed Cara Drummond, the channel mascot that appears in almost all of my non-railway related thumbnails and on the channel banner. When I transitioned from a Splatoon-based character to an actual humanoid design, I only knew two things. She had to wear my favourite Team Fortress 2 hat, the Crone Dome, and had to wear a dress that completely obscured her legs from view, in order to make it easier to animate eventually. I always intended for her to get a 3D model. Other than that, her design is ever evolving. In my drafts, the dress was black, for instance, but the artist I worked with, Starblood, presented me with the maroon dress she is seen wearing now. Her lower half reverted back to octopus-like to reflect the Splatoon ties, and her pupil became horizontal to reflect the cephalopod nature. Worst challenge animating trains in SFM. Switchbacks. For curves I have found myself a trick relating to a barrel, but switchbacks are essentially curves that don't allow you to use a hinge to cheat. What is your favourite train game? As I've said a few times before, I don't really game all that much. I could say Incredible Express, but that game does suffer from its simplicity and short length. Void Train is a contender, but it really isn't as fun on your own. Here's one. Games not unlike Chris Sawyer's Locomotion get me hooked for hours at a time. Recommend me more of those if you know of any worth noting. I tried Train Valley and I got insanely bored insanely quickly. Any plans on getting a Caledonian 812? Blue one's gone, why bother? Will you do an updated locomotive collection? Any updates you have already seen? Current favourite locomotive in your collection? Thompson Scheme Flying Scotsman. The Thompson Pacific she was mostly running alongside has failed at the moment, but that Scotsman seems absolutely bulletproof. Watch this space as it's now probably going to break down. What's your process on deciding what model trains to buy? Excuse me, there's a process? Beyond, ooh, shiny! How long have you been interested in trains? I went from a wooden train set at 2 years old to watching railway documentaries when I was 4 years old, so from the beginning, really. As with most people, I'm sure. Seeing your model railway content, it kinda leaves me wondering what's your favourite company of the big four? And what's your least favourite? The LNER is my favourite. It has the most familial ties as it ran in Aberdeenshire, it has the best mythos, yet has always been from the beginning represented as not being the stumper of the big four, not having no money, not having to cancel all that would have made it the railway of the future, Meanwhile, this myth propagated that its most forward-thinking CME was this usurping troll. Also, the LNE has the most modelling possibilities, I feel like, as it ran almost everywhere but the West and Wales, whilst having the oldest general rolling stock of the big four. Definitely the most interesting out of the bunch for me. As for my least favourite, Gresley was right. What made you choose the NS5000 as your mascot loco? It is a locomotive heavily associated with Scotland, all members having been built there. With a wheel arrangement I find very aesthetically pleasing, but placed in a tiny country where every other locomotive around it was much taller, they were given a funny chimney to compensate. I just liked them for looking so refined yet so brutish. If I had known what the channel would turn into though, I would have commissioned either 46256 Sir William Stanier FRS or 60113 Great Northern to be my mascot, but I'm perfectly fine with being known as the guy who likes WDs and also Thompson Pacifics a bit too much maybe. If I had to sacrifice one entire class of preserved locomotives in order to bring back a different class of locomotive from the dead in equal numbers, which would I scrap, which would I resurrect? This is such an English way of thinking about railway preservation. Only a person hailing from a country where you will find 3 rail tour specials a week in the summer, sometimes more in one day, each behind different locomotives, could ask if it was worth scrapping a whole class of preserved steam loco in order to bring another class back. Or preserved loco in general. In the Netherlands, we have 2 choices for mainline steam. Neither choice are of Dutch origin. The only running authentic Dutch steam locomotives are 1060 and 2040 tram engines. The idea to scrap either of those precious pieces of heritage in order to allow one other NS loco to come back would get you laughed out the door and blacklisted. Like, why do English enthusiasts have such a hard time grasping that they are the exception to the rule of railway preservation? Are there any locomotives you would like to see / railways or places you would like to visit but haven't had the chance to yet? I'm gonna be very much that guy, but at this moment I'm very content with how far I've managed to travel, from the Kent and East Sussex to the Strathspey. Something I would like to attend though would be a Ravenglass and Eskdale Railway locomotive running on a Romney Hythe and Dymchurch Railway gala, as I would love to make a TGL episode on one of those tiny locos, but with my own footage. Thank you for watching, and thank you for helping the channel get to 18,000 subscribers. If you want to see the previous Q&A, or perhaps what YouTube decides is the best video for you to watch next, the cards will appear on screen. Cheerio!